Hello, hello everyone. Good to see you guys and welcome to Pose of the Week. I'm so glad you could join me today. So I wanted to just get a little bit close to you. I'll be moving around and I'm trying to figure out best camera angle. So, slippery sticky mats. Have you ever had to put up with that? I'm sure you have. Everybody that I've come across at one time or another has had the slippery sticky mat or the sweaty hands. And doing a downward facing dog with a slippery sticky mat, is frustrating. So what I want to do today is give you 3 tips that will help you not only deal with slippery sticky mats, but also wrist pain that can happen, elbow pain, shoulder pain, or that sensation that all the blood is rushing into your head, and when you stand up, the room just spins on you. So hello and welcome. Looks like I have someone here. Can't see who it is yet. But if you have questions, leave them below and I'll answer as we go along. So good to have you. So in our downward facing dog, one of the first things we want to focus on, foundation. So you're going to take your paws, your good old puppy paws, and put them up in the air. And the hands, you have the 4 corners, the mound of the thumb, mound of the index finger, mound of the pinky, and outer heel of the hand. And the hands themselves, we can create a little claw for a moment and super engage the palm itself and have an arch. And our hands, just like our feet, are meant to have arches when we're bearing weight on them, whether it's a cobra pose, a plank pose, a downward facing dog, or an upside down tree, otherwise known as handstand. If you don't engage that arch of the hand and you just collapse the hands to the floor, then you end up feeling that pressure on the wrist. So this is the first tip. We're going to go ahead and bring 4 corners of the hands together and finger pads. And I want you for a moment to gently press those 4 corners of the hands together and the finger pads. And feel that engagement. You can even claw in the air for a moment. That engagement of the palm itself, how it can lift like a suction cup. So as you're pressing 4 corners of the hands, turn the fingers towards the floor and maybe I'll show you mine. You see a little space between the heel of your hand? That gives you an idea that you're engaging the arch of the palm. That's what you want. Okay. Now as you're here, 4 corners of the hands pressing, finger pads rooting, notice how you can draw the shoulder blades towards one another and down the back. How the chest is nice and free, and you feel the neck nice and long. Now for a moment, think of the Hulk and squish your hands together. Get rid of the arches and squish those palms. Feel how the chest contracts, how the shoulder blades wing off the back, and you feel intense. Hard to find peace that way. So bring the arch back to the palm by pressing the 4 corners. Lengthen from the hips to the underarms. Good, and draw the head of the shoulders right here, back. And that's the first tip, making sure you have an arch in your hand because you're rooting through the 4 corners of the palm. Now the second tip, you want to engage from the underside of the wrist to the underarm. Too often in downward facing dog, we collapse our weight and we let the underside of the arm fall to the floor. Next thing you know, your elbows yelling, your shoulders yelling, and your neck feels terrible. So what I want you to do, and you can do this just seated, you're going to bring your hands out in front of you on the floor. And I'm hoping you can see my fingertips, because I'm going to have you come up onto your fingertips just as if you were tenting your hands. This is an extreme version of that arch, right? So you're going to press your finger pads into the floor, and as you press the finger pads into the floor, lift and engage from the underside of the wrist to the underarm, okay? So from the side, what that looks like, and you can just do this seated, you have your fingers in front of you, instead of collapsing down, you press finger pads into the floor, and you lift from underside of the wrist to underarm, and that helps the sides of the body get nice and long. Good. Now, to feel the next thing, I want you to just very slowly slide your fingertips back towards your shins. Good. 2 more times like that. Fingertips forward about 10 inches in front of you. Press those finger pads down. Feel the arch of the palm engage. Lift from the underside of the wrist to the underarm, and then slowly slide the hands back. Awesome. All right, we'll move on. The final tip here is the alignment of the arm itself. Specifically, the outer elbow where that goes, and the upper inner arm. These two spots, if you focus on these two spots, when you're in your downward dog, you'll find that you can stay broad from the neck to the shoulders while still engaging the shoulder blades. You'll keep a tone in the muscles of the neck so that you don't get that head rush where all the blood is just pouring into your head, but instead you regulate the flow of the blood, essentially blood pressure. So fingertips in front of you again. Now, what I want you to do, we'll go through the two actions we did before. Pressing the finger pads into the earth, engage the arch of the palm. Good. Lift from the underside of the wrist to the underarm. And now the second thing, notice the spot on the outer elbow and the upper inner arm. And I want you to lift them at an equal rate, as if they had a little string on the diagonal, just gently lifting them away from the floor. Okay? So from the side, here's what that looks like. You have your finger pads in front of you. You press the finger pads down. You engage from the underside of the wrist to the underarm. And as if that string was right on the outer elbow and the upper inner arm, you lift those two spots in an equal rate. And then you soften between the shoulder blades. And that's it. That's the hand alignment and shoulder alignment for downward facing dog. So when you're in the pose, your wrists feel good, elbows and shoulders, and your head feels nice and steady. So to show you, come to all fours. I'm going to add a little bit of weight here. And you're going to walk your hands 2 hand lengths in front of you for puppy pose. I want you to try this time with the fingers down. So finger pads press down, 4 corners of the palm through, and you engage the arch of your palm. You're going to engage from the underside of the wrist to the underarm. You can even try to pull your hands back towards your knees isometrically. Good. Keep that muscle tone in the underside of the arms and stay lifting through outer elbow and upper inner arm. Good. Then the last piece, soften between the shoulder blades. And as you tone your belly, move your hips back just enough so the ears come in line with the arms. And this is our puppy pose. The knees still on the floor. We take a breath. Good. So when we're learning these advanced techniques of alignment, it's a wonderful idea to come into positions where you don't have much weight bearing. That way you have more mobility, you can move the arms, and you don't have that pressure of trying to go from maybe a misaligned spot into aligned with the weight bearing. So it's good to see you guys. Who's here? Let's see if I can see who's here. Somebody's hiding. If you get a chance, give me a shout out, a little hello. So with the downward facing dog, quick recap. What I want you to remember when you're in it is the foundation of a pose, very important. And in downward facing dog, hands are a foundation. Hello, good to have you guys. Feet are a foundation as well. We'll get to the legs in another recording. But for today, focus on the 4 corners of the palms when you're in your downward facing dog. Engage those paws and create the little arch. The second thing I want you to think about, you're going to tone from the underside of the wrist to the underarm. And then the final piece or tip, the outer edge of the elbow and the upper inner arm lifting at an equal rate so that you set the head of the arm bone up sweetly in the shoulder socket. And then you just soften between the shoulder blades. So have a wonderful, wonderful day. I'm glad you joined me for Pose of the Week. Next week, we're going to be talking about shoulder alignment in Chaturanga. So bring your questions. This is an important, very vital piece of information because Chaturanga, the yoga push-up, we do them over and over in many classes in our sun salutes. And if you're doing your Chaturanga and your shoulders are collapsing, you can end up in a really bad place, possibly injuring yourself. So learn how to get that right alignment and be in a safe spot so that as you're moving through your sun salutes, you can enjoy yourself and not worry about hurting the shoulders. So next week, Pose of the Week, same time, same yoga time, Tuesdays, 12:30 Eastern. Join me and we'll go over these tips. I look forward to seeing you guys. Lots of, oh, hi, Liz. Good to see you. Oh, I'm glad this is helpful. It's great to have you with me. Hey there, John. Good to see you too. So make sure you tune in next week as well. We're going to make sure those shoulders feel great and safe, super safe in Chaturanga. Have an awesome day. Lots of love to you guys. Mwah. Bye-bye.